Here we are back again. Analysts after work. But for some of us, it's dark. But this is Analysts after work. Welcome, folks. Steve, I see you in the chat. Don't worry, we'll get to your part, but I want to welcome everyone to Analysts after work. And I want to welcome back the always lovely Tina Lovelock and the sometimes lovely Adrian Reed.
That's fair. That's fair.
Welcome back to the show. It has been a while, but with good reason, because we've all been fairly crazy with all the things, and I would say you two most of all. And we will come to that in just a second, but you know the drill. And if I don't do it, Steve Jones is going to harass me. What are we drinking today? And I know it's late for you, so everything's on the table.
It is late for us, but I mean, pretty much at any time of day, I'm drinking tea, and I'm drinking tea in my IIBA business analysis mug.
Well
Product
done.
placement.
Well done. Well done.
So I'm drinking imitation Coke Zero. This is actually Freeway Cola Zero. Which is available from Lidl.
So, I know. I always thought it was pronounced Lidl, but Lidl. Okay, that works.
That's a bit like Toronto versus Toronto, or however.
Toronto,
You're not supposed to pronounce the. Is it like the second T? You show you're a tourist if you pronounce the second T or something.
Actually, there is no T in Toronto. It's like CHURNO. Churano.
I saw this hilarious video that said how to make friends in Toronto, and it said pronounce it Toronto. Tell people they sound like they're from Alberta. I don't know why these things are funny, but apparently they are if you're from Toronto. But
I mean, what does someone from Alberta even sound like?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't live in your country, Vince.
I wanted your fake Coke to be called Woke Zero, Adrian.
Woke Zero.
Ooh.
Well, no, we can't. Please, I can't do that. I can't do this anymore. It's just
get this woke agenda out of here. Come on.
10 p.m. I need the caffeine. I mean,
Respect. It's been a long day here, even though it is only 5:00. I still have my afternoon coffee, and then once that's gone, it'll be straight up water. Because that's what I've got available. Cool. So hopefully Steve is placated with the covering of that question. Tina and Adrian, you guys have been doing some outstanding things lately, not least of which let's talk about BA School Day. What were some of the what brought that to your mind? How did that become a thing? How did BA School Day become a thing?
So Adrian and I had a day together last December where we'd been talking about loads of different ideas, things that we wanted to do for the community. And in particular, we were thinking about underserved groups within the community. And there was two initiatives that we picked out. And one of them was BA School Day, because a common theme in business analysis is that no one intended to become a business analyst. We all fell into it and we all did something else first. And we talked about the idea, wouldn't it be great if we could get a generation that weren't accidental BAs, that they were this was a job that they could see and that they were planning for and that they were heading for. So we decided we needed to get in early in that conversation and target schools, colleges and universities. And it's been an amazing response that we've had.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting because we got together in December and we had a really long list of things that we like. And it's one of those things where we could do any of these things and they'd be fun, but actually we need to choose one or two because it's just otherwise it's never going to happen, right? Because all of this stuff is done on borrowed time. And with School Day, the way we approached it was like, we want this to be an invitation to self-organize. What we were like, we're not going to match people up to schools, or we're going to curate some content and people can contribute content, and then it's for the community to do what the community does with it. And I remember we sat down. what was the, because like what we were like, it's like, this is kind of an MVP, and we were like, well, what's our success factor? I can't remember. How many people did we say?
We said 20. We said if we can convince 20 people to do this, then we'll consider that a win. And actually, we got far more people than that.
I haven't looked recently, but it was like over 200 to probably somewhere between 200 and 250 people signed up to say, yeah, I'm going to go into a school. Which, if you think that's like, and some people were doing whole year groups, some people were doing classes, but if you say on average, the person, on average it's 30 per person, that's like 6,000, over 6,000 students have been reached through the initiative. And if I'm calculating it correctly, in every continent except Antarctica. So,
Yeah, I mean, but that leaves an underserved community for next year, where we go to Antarctica and we hold a class or something. Maybe we can teach the penguins or something. That's, I mean, so when you put that out into the world, I think I'm one of those 250 people. Shamefully, I'm gonna with shame, I've not done my part yet, and I will say yet because I do intend to, but just couldn't do it on November 1st. We got roped into some other stuff related to BA Day, and that created some other commitments, but it made total sense. And I always thought back to, and I stole it. I mean, I've taken it from Philip Hendricks, who said BA stands for by accident. I'm hoping, so I've got another course coming out from LinkedIn. I actually put that line in there where I shout out Philip in the course, because it's 100% true. Like, none of us started. I did not grow up wanting to be a business analyst. It just sort of worked that way. So very much by accident. But being very deliberate, very intentional about that and presenting it, I thought was a great idea. I just need to now harass my kids' principal to let me come in and talk to them. So I'm still going to do it. I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, but you have supported BA School Day because you've promoted it and you've raised awareness. So don't feel too guilty, because you've certainly done that for it. And Adrian
then I'm good. Oh, okay. I was feeling like a lot of guilt and like.
You don't feel guilty, but Adrian and I, it was quite nerve-wracking, wasn't it? Waiting before we were going into the school.
Don't even go. That's so. We went into, so it was so for people not familiar with the geography of the UK, I live in the south of the UK. I mean, Tina lives in the north, but it's not like north. So this is it. This is the north-south divide. What would you call? Because you're not the Midlands, but you're not like Newcastle. Do you still class yourself as north?
North, yeah, but Yorkshire is its own thing.
That's it. So I never really know. I don't even know the geography of, but yeah. but in I suppose in US and Canadian driving terms, we're neighbours, because we're much. But but we kind of decided that actually we wanted to do, because we kicked off the initiative together. We sort of wanted to actually do School Day as a thing, as two presenters. And so we went into a school that Tina knows, and we spoke to a group of year 5. So they were what, 9, 10 years old?
9 and 10, yeah.
Okay. And then year 6, which is 1 year older than that. And it was really interesting, the difference between them, because the year 5s were really, really enthusiastic. I mean, there was one kid who had his hand up and he was like, "No, pick me, I want to, And then year 6 was like, too cool for school. We don't, we're just gonna sit here and be passive recipients of what you have to tell us.
Yeah. that year is big, because that's where you get jaded. That's where the jading starts.
They're practicing being teenagers at that age.
At that point, it's like, whatever, man. Just am I going to get some candy or something?
But even though the year 6s were not as enthusiastic, they all got it. They all understood what we were telling them. They all asked really good questions. There was one question from the older age group, which was really good. We talked to them about the idea of projects and delivering work in projects. And she said, so do you only get paid after you've delivered a project? And we were like, we can see why you might think that. But in fact, we get paid regardless.
It's a really logical question, isn't it? And you think about it, if you hired a builder or a roofer or something, then okay, there might be staged payments, but it's deliverable based. But actually, as a business analyst, you just, if you're employed, you just get a little pay packet, or or a pay packet each month.
But, and I mean, I've said this about not to disparage a project manager, but like if you've got a PM on contract, what incentive is there for them to have the project ever end? Like, because they can just be paid forever and ever and ever. And like, we need to add to the schedule. We've expanded scope. Need to add to the schedule. Not that I would say the good PMs do that, but it's the same idea. Well, I was thrilled to support you in whatever little way that I could. And it was awesome to see the people posting about it on social media, primarily on LinkedIn, is what I saw, but just the people that were posting about it and speaking to students at all levels. It's an amazing initiative. I hope you do it again. I commend you for it, because it's for the community. It's for the future. And so that's awesome. And I know a little bit about that from having done some stuff with Adrian in the past. I know he's very community focused and focused on building up the profession. But I mean, that it's awesome.
We had some IIBA chapters really get involved as well. IIBA Zimbabwe and the Colombia chapter were really into it. It was just brilliant to see what different interpretations people had around the world and the different ways that they planned their events and interacted with their students. So it's been brilliant to watch.
And I think, and I mean, I completely agree, Vince. The community is very close to my heart, and I know Tina's heart as well. But I think what this reinforced in my mind is that actually sometimes you just need to put an idea out into the world and some structure, and there are people waiting there to run with it. We didn't really do very much, right? I mean, we did what needed to be done in terms of putting a website out there and putting the idea out on social media, but the idea really sold itself because it was filling a gap that in retrospect is quite an obvious gap, right? And all the best ideas are obvious in retrospect, but they're not obvious at the time. It's quite often the way. And I think what it's, one of my reflections on the process generally is, sometimes just, get the MVP out there and see who bites, right? And then figure out, I mean, Vince, you remember with like Serendipity when we were seeing what will happen with it and pivoting along the way.
You've opened Pandora's box. Now we have to talk about it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So
No, and I mean it was the same thing, right? We just wanted to do something for the community, and there were people that questioned, like, what is wrong with you? Charge people, get some. This is not financially viable, and like, well, we're not trying to make it financially viable. We just wanted to do something for the community at a time where virtual conferences weren't filling the need, and so that was the driver there. So that's, I mean, that I remember having those discussions, those weekly debate discussions on like what are we trying to actually accomplish, and how do we just do something cool for the community that we don't want to make money off of, like that's not the driver.
Well, and I think that's it. And I think one thing that I've learned and reflected on both of them actually is it's really important to have a clear guiding vision and not to unconsciously stray from it. Because like with Serendipity, we definitely did that. And with school day, I mean, Tina, you can probably remember we met with some other influencers, and there were lots of other good ideas about ways that the scope could be expanded.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all fantastic ideas, but we would have never have done you know what it's like. So sometimes, like, I think sometimes there are things where it's good to get a group of people together and form a committee and do stuff, and that works. Other times, just get one or two people and do it, and say to people, come along with us. We want you with us, and then year 2 we'll figure out if the scope can expand. But let's see if the thing is even viable in the first place. Is the first place, so yeah. And Fabrizio, I see in the chat is saying BA is a community, which is absolutely true, and which
let's give him some
Fabrizio
love.
is a key part of.
No, and I mean to that end, let's talk about community. And me being excluded from the community.
Yeah, deliberately excluded. Like, we deliberately excluded you, Vince.
You deliberately excluded.
We wanted
it was
to
the No
check.
Vince's Club. No Vince's
We
Club.
wanted to check and make sure that it was worth inviting you, making you travel all that way next time. We wanted to make sure that we had an event that was worth inviting you to.
So for those that don't know, and I'm mostly joking. I'm a little jealous, but I was mostly joking, because you're right. That's a far distance to travel. You guys did something else that was really, really cool recently. Do you want to share that and how that came to be?
Adrian.
Yeah. So like Tina was saying, with our December planning session last year, we identified underserved areas, underserved segments, and the people at the very beginning of the career who don't even know about business analysis was one of them. Also, we kind of thought, well, you know what? I love going to conferences. I love meeting people, but there's not enough time to actually do the deep thinking. And you get snatched conversations, and you're like, Vince, we must talk about something. Let's do that. And then it never happens because life gets in the way.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to create a space with a really loose agenda to talk about BA stuff in a way that wasn't regimented, but was structured. And one thing that I think we were both quite certain about was one thing that we both said when we came back from the Florida BBC, particularly, was one of the things which makes it different from other conferences we've been to is everyone's in, like, often most people are in the conference hotel. There's like the conference, and then there's the unofficial conference at the bar from like 6 p.m. till whenever the heck the bar closes. And we were like, actually, we kind of want that social element. We want a space where people can't get away from each other. And so we built it was kind of 3 days, right? So people arrived on the Thursday. Or whenever it was, on the Thursday, and we had some pre-work for them to do when they arrived. But that was mainly social. Then we had dinner. Dinner was in the evening. Then there was a full day on the Friday, and then the Saturday agenda was set by what we discussed on the Friday. So, and then about Saturday lunchtime, everyone went home, and that we decided to have a dress to impress dinner on the Friday night. So there was the social element was as important as the business element, not that it was particularly business related.
Right. I saw the pictures. There were ball gowns and suits and tuxes and stuff, and I was like, "What? Maybe it's better I didn't go, because I would have been in my Roots jogging pants and a hoodie." But yeah. So I'm not going to ask about what you talked about, but because I think that's what happens at a country estate stays at a country estate, but what you said there about that, that carving out time. And Tina, I don't know if you were there when it happened in Vegas. Adrian, I know you weren't there because you were at your booth, but it was at lunch on the Thursday. I'm pretty sure you were there, Tina. And it was, us and Grant and Patty and Philip and Fabrizio and there were a bunch of people just throwing ideas at each other and trying to, how can we do something that's kind of cool, and that isn't part of the agenda. And that was the whole driving force behind Serendipity originally, which was, how do we create that space for just cool stuff to happen? Because yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, and I think that's it. I think that's one of the things that I'm sure Tina won't mind me saying, when we were planning stuff in December, was like, we weren't just doing it from like, what's good for the community is part of it. We weren't looking commercially. None of this was ever supposed to be commercial. But we were also saying, but what do we actually want to do? Like, what's going to be fun? And how can we do it in a way, and this is a phrase I picked up from Tina, is how do we do a way where like the fun doesn't get sucked out of it? When like you do something, but then it just becomes a real bind because it becomes bureaucratic, or too many people are involved with different perspectives, and you're just like, oh my god, this is like trying to navigate through some political minefield. So yeah, and but yeah, it was good fun. I mean, my head is still spinning, I think, from it, but it was good fun.
Yeah. We definitely have some themes and some actions and things that we're going to share with the wider community. We really kind of take seriously the responsibility that this group, but also the group that was there at the retreat, that we have to be able to serve the community in the way that it needs to be supported, the challenges that we've got, how can we help to overcome them, where are we going in future. And we use the phrase at the retreat, which has resonated with a few people, which no one is coming to save us. And as a profession, we've got a lot of worries. We've got a lot of turf wars going on. What do all these things mean for business analysis? What will it look like in 10, 20 years' time? And I think we need to advance the conversation in some of these areas.
I agree.
I agree. I actually, so you both have touched on, I think totally unintentionally, because this was not planned and we have not pre-discussed this, but navigating. I have two new keynotes coming out. One is called Navigating the Political Minefield, and the other one is called Just Beyond the Horizon, What's Next for Business Analysis? Because I think people are going to be surprised by that one, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows. And so, that no one's coming to save us is 100% right. Like, if you think about the battles of maintaining relevancy with the rise of Agile, well, you don't need BAs for Agile, right? We know that's not true, but we know that's not true. The broader world may think that is true. And so there has been that fight for relevancy. And I mean, I don't see an end to it. It's only going to get worse with AI and with all of the new things emerging.
I think that's true. And I think, but it's interesting, right? Because I see a divide, and this might be controversial. I hope it's not, but like I
hope it is.
So yeah, maybe I'll say something really but like I meet some really, really good BAs, and of those BAs, some are involved in community initiatives. Quite a few are involved in community initiatives, some aren't. But I sometimes come across people who have the title business analyst, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, I mean, that's my inner monologue, is saying, but what are you like? What do you think business analysis is? Because you're carrying this label, and and this is something that I've spoken about with many others, so I may be borrowing ideas and language from others, but it's like, they're carrying our brand, and they're out there saying they're a business analyst, but they're doing either a tiny, tiny bit, and if anyone asks them to do anything else, they're like, oh no, I just write down stuff. That's so I think that there is that crisis where there are some excellent BAs who get the breadth of what the role is, but there are some people who are like, no, I just want to stay in my comfort zone. And I think one of the things that's going to happen as stuff emerges from that horizon is it is not going to be possible to have us to live within a little sliver, because that little sliver, anything that's administrative can be potentially automated or semi-automated, right? So yeah, so I see opportunities as well, and I see opportunities for starting to blur the edges of the role, starting to bring ideas in from other disciplines, starting to share what we do with other disciplines, which again is probably a little bit controversial to some, but there we go.
So I mean, you just gave the preview of what I wanted to talk about in my third horizon, which I'm looking like 5 to 10 years out. I see a convergence and a divergence. Not a divergence, a splintering. I think there's going to be a joining of forces at some point between disciplines, between associations, between organizations. I think those mergers are inevitable. But I also think that there's going to be a splintering of the profession where you are going to have those hyper specialized roles that don't, then you can ask that question: are you even doing the breadth of what business analysis is anymore? Because you just do this, so you've chosen to hyper specialize, and that's neither right or wrong. I'm not going to say it's good or bad, but you've chosen to hyper specialize, but as a result you're ignoring all this other stuff. So are you still practicing business analysis, or are you doing something different? So time will tell whether but that's what I see sort of in the next 5 to 10 years.
That's really interesting. And something that I notice is that a lot of business analysts are not looking up from their own organizations. They are so, it's kind of delivery at all costs, and they're not looking outside of their organizational boundaries. In a lot of cases, they don't even understand that this professional community exists. They don't attend conferences or don't see the value. They don't understand why this would be useful to their career. And I was in that position a few years ago. I was interested in getting professional certification for me and my team, going on training courses, but I couldn't think why I would invest in sending people to conferences. And it's only after kind of stepping into that world that I realized how valuable it was and how much the community supports each other. But there are thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of BAs missing from the conversation because they're busy with their heads down doing delivery. And I don't know how we get them to look up.
Yeah. This is what I think we called when we were doing that underserved thing, the missing mid-career folks who are very busy, probably being very effective, but aren't necessarily visible in the community. And taking a slight pivot from that, and this is actually something I know. I think Fabrizio is here. I've spoken to Fabrizio about this idea, and it's been like spinning around in my head for a while now, but so like at that retreat, there were 12 of us, okay? And I reckon just first level connections on LinkedIn, we probably had more connections than there are members of some large professional associations, okay? Just the 12 of us probably had between us more connections than some well-known professional associations, and our connections are growing. Okay. Now, I look at young people, like, you see how they engage with, or younger, because obviously I'm still young. I know I look like I'm 25. I'm actually a little bit older than that. But they engage with content differently. I was on a
that dry British wit.
Yeah. But I was on the bus. I was on a bus the other day, and I was in the guy in front of me had a mobile phone, cell phone, and he was scrolling through TikTok. Just scroll, and there's nothing good or bad about that. It just is. But that is a very different way to engaging with content. I mean, I don't know how old this guy was, 17, 18, however. That was a very different way than I could engage with content when I was 17, 18, right? And when I first started my career in insurance, you joined a professional association because that's what you did, and that was often the guardian of the information. So I joined the Chartered Insurance Institute, and you could buy books about insurance from the Chartered Insurance Institute. We're not in that world anymore. We're in a world where individuals can get the I mean, heck, Vince, you're one of them, right? Can get the spotlight that only a professional association could have given someone in the past, and they can do that through LinkedIn Live or LinkedIn Learning and these sorts of things. And so anyway, that's the background, the model, and this is, I think, in pictures. So this is going to sound random, but I imagine it like previously we had a big planet, right? Like a professional association, and everything kind of had to orbit around that planet because the planet had all the gravity or whatever. But it's not like that anymore. It's like a galaxy of stars, right? Or it's like the connections in a brain where I'm connected to you, we're all connected to Tina, we know Fabrizio, and all of this information goes across those networks, like the synapses firing in a brain, right? And anyone can tap into that. And let's say, Vince, you do so well off of your LinkedIn Learning royalties that you retire, right? And so you're no longer part of that brain. That
would be great, but yeah.
Right? Yeah, we wouldn't like that. But if that happened, the brain still operates, right? Because there are so many networks that it just fires in a different way. And so I think that what a lot of professional associations haven't entirely clocked onto yet is there's a global community of practice out there that can communicate with itself and can create stuff and curate stuff and do stuff like School Day, right? Avengers, right? That can do stuff like School Day. We don't need we don't need permission or anything as a community. We can just get out there and do stuff. So I think one of the changes is, and I hope professional associations do pivot and start to reorganize around the new normal, because I just think in 10 years things are going to be very different in the way that professional communities work. And I'm going to shut up now because I've probably said too much.
No. This is I'm gonna pick my words very carefully so I don't get myself in trouble. What you just described there is the reason why, when it comes to conferences and events, I don't speak for free anymore.
Yeah.
I won't ask for like a speaking fee or anything. But I hate being out of, like, I don't want to trade my time and my, hotel and airfare for exposure. I don't need it. I'm a good enough suck of attention to myself. I don't need the attention. I don't need the adoration. I enjoy going to things to see, folks like yourself, to see my friends, the part of the hive mind, as Tamara so rightly put it. Like, it's part of the hive mind, because it's an opportunity to connect in person, and you shorten the distance between those synapses firing.
Yeah, and I mean, so
and there's value in that.
There is, and another analogy, right? So I when I was doing my master's degree, I did it with the Open University, so I was working at the same time, and I had an academic library access. You can get all sorts of academic stuff, from academic journals, and then when my actually they give you access for that 6 months after you graduate as well, which is great. After that, if you want access to academic journals and academic journal articles, they're really expensive, right? Like crazy. Like, there was one article, and it was like, I think it was a 3-page introduction to a whole chapter of a thing, and it was like $50 to rent, not to even buy. And like but think about that model, right? You've got and I mean, I don't know the model, but I'd imagine the researchers don't get paid by the journal. They might have funding from elsewhere, but they're not paid by the journal. The peer reviewers aren't paid by the journal. So, like, the crazy thing is, you can write to, or I gather you can write to the authors of the thing and say, can I have a preprint? I think, that you can't necessarily have the typeset version that the journals, but can I have a preprint? And they'll send it to you for free if they feel so inclined. But you're like, I don't get that model. So I think there are some models out there that don't need to work like that anymore. Like, like if we can do stuff online here because we want to and it's free. And I think there's, information wants to be free. Information wants to be firing across that synapses. We all need to make a living, but do we need some of the institutions, some of the organizations and companies do they need to be configured in the way that they are, driving the revenue streams that they are? And I don't know the answer to that. And this is absolutely no criticism on any individual organization. It's a more general business model conversation. And I'm just really excited to see where that leads us as a enthusiastic community of disruptors.
I see that I do see that changing. It's very much that that gatekeeper, like, this is mine and I'm going to put a ring around it, and if you want access to the ring, you can rent it for 50 US dollars, and I'll let you in. I'll open the door a little bit. I think eventually that model has to go away. I don't know what replaces it, but I think it has to go away because everything is so available and accessible. Like the days of and this is going to be lost on you because you're much younger than I am, both of you. But
I'm only 19, Vince, so
when I wanted to know something and I was doing research in high school, like, the internet was just becoming a thing. And so when I was in grade 8, which would be roughly 13, I had to go to this building called a library and look for what I did not have the access to information. Now that was only, 25 years ago, maybe a little bit more, but it wasn't that long ago. And look at how far we've come with regards to the availability of information. So I think that model needs to change, but it's going to take a catalyst to change it. And I think, the pandemic did a lot of damage. It did a lot of damage, but it did a lot of damage to these poor business models, because it really, put a cannonball through the hull. We need something else, and I hope it's not another pandemic, because that would kind of suck.
Yeah.
But we need something else that either we need to replace the model with something better, or we need to it's like advertising. If you want advertising to go away, just stop paying attention to it. And so maybe that's the thing. You just need a collective of people to say, you know what, we're not going to participate in this academic, moting of information. We're going to share it freely. And I'm fairly convinced when you do that, because back to the point of everyone needs to make a living, give, and eventually it comes back to you. At least I kind of hope so. But it's going to take something. It's going to take something.
I agree. There'll be some serendipitous catalyst that will probably throw things out there. But like one of the things, and to do a shameless plug, one of the things people often say about BA Digest, right? Like Vince, when we were doing Serendipity, and people
wait, hold on. No, wait, hold on. There you go. Go ahead.
Thank you. You'll remember when we were doing Serendipity, Vince, and people were like, well, you could charge for this, and we're like, that's not the point. That's not what this is about.
Exactly.
One of the questions I get a lot about BA Digest is like, oh, but you don't have to sign up. Like, make people sign up. And I'm like, but then it's not free. Like, if you have to sign up for something, you're exchanging information for it. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a model, but that's not the BA Digest model. The BA Digest model is you read it, and then it's so good that you want to sign up, right? So so actually you get more engaged people signing up, who then become part of this ecosystem where they can contribute and hopefully write articles. And but yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think it's but I also think there's a good chance that just and you know, I know I'm saying serendipitous a lot. That doesn't mean anything, but I do think there'll be just serendipitous stuff emerging because we are all so connected as a community, or we can be so connected that, you know, Tina and I can do something, you can do something, we can see the similarity. We don't have to be, you know, we can be loosely coupled in what we're doing, but we can actually, you know, help support each other and so on. Well, that's killed the conversation.
Well, no, it did. I actually was pausing because, like, Tina hasn't said anything in a while. I just wanted to leave the door open for her to add her brilliance.
I've been thinking that a lot of industries that thought that they were beyond disruption have been disrupted in the last decade. And we talked about different models for different things. And I think something's going to come along that's going to disrupt business analysis in a big way. And either we can kind of hide behind the sofa and hope that it happens after we've all retired, or we can be thinking, how do we want to push the boundaries of business analysis? How do we want it to evolve in the future? How are we going to help overcome some of the challenges that we're facing as a profession and as a community? And so I'm suggesting that as a profession, we don't hide behind the sofa.
No. Don't. I mean, I used the ostrich analogy the other day. I published an article on AI, and like, you can stick your head in the sand. It doesn't change a thing. It does not change a damn thing. It's coming. So get ready. Like, I see this as like the on-ramp to the highway. This is your chance to learn as much as you can and be ready for when it is a requirement of your job. Because that's going to happen. Right? And if it's not AI, it'll be something else. There will be like super AI, or I don't know, whatever comes after it. But it is inevitable, which is sort of nihilistic a little bit. Like it's coming. Like, we'll just deal with it. But it's true. I mean, it is coming, and disruption is coming. Right now, it's in the form of AI. 10 years ago, it was in the form of Agile. 10 years prior to that, it was project management that was trying to start their own BA certification. Like, you know, that disruption is coming. So how do we best prepare for that? And it you know, maybe that's just buy Bitcoin. I don't know, but maybe it's you know.
I think there's two ways that BAs are really well placed to prepare. One is our kind of natural curiosity, and the fact that BAs are interested, we want to ask questions, and kind of coupled with that, our commitment to continuous professional development, because those two things are going to serve us really well as a profession. If we're the people who want to find out more, want to learn more, want to push beyond our comfort zones, and then want to share what we've learned with others, that puts us in a really strong position. I think that window to be in that space and leading those conversations is not going to be open forever. And another professional discipline is going to step in and crown themselves king of implementing AI within organizations. So I think there is an opportunity for BAs, because we're curious, because we want to learn, to be one of the first voices in this space in organizations who are not yet talking about it.
I just in my yet to be published research, I wrote, you've said it much better, but I wrote that this is our opportunity to take the lead on AI, because who is the best role or function to help the business define what its needs are and how AI can support it? Who is that? And back to something that was said earlier, we have not been very good advocates. You can look back on Adrian's YouTube channel, or BA Live. Is it BA Hub? No.
Yeah.
BA Hub. The video library. There's a webinar of me, the two of us, talking about strategy and enterprise analysis, and we have not done enough to get a seat at the table because we're so busy. My hypothesis is we're so busy in the tactics that we don't take that step back. And so I starred this comment from Steve earlier, and I'm glad we've come back to it. Is
Yeah.
I agree with this. I agree with it. I don't know that we actually do this though. Like, I think the good BAs help push critical thinking. But what, something that Tina said earlier about, what are we? We're just, if we're note takers, if we're documenters, we aren't pushing critical thinking. This is what great BAs do. But is that what everybody does? And I think that's the thing that we need to hammer in, is like, we should have that professional curiosity. We should have that drive for continuous learning. I don't know that we do, collective, like, generally speaking.
I think that's fair, and I think there's also an element of having to have the really hard conversations, which is a hard thing to do, and having to sometimes say, not in these words, but this sentiment to quite senior people: I think you're about to make a mistake. I don't think this is the right way. But if you give me a little bit of time, I can be more sure whether it is or isn't the right way, whether it is or isn't the right direction. And one thing I've found in my career, because a lot of the stuff I do now is either pre-project or at a different, perhaps more at what used to be called enterprise analysis or strategy analysis or whatever. I mean, there's always elements of a mixture, right? But I tend to, because I enjoy it more. But one of the things I found as my career has sort of emerged and progressed is that I used to think that management and leaders really didn't like difficult conversations. But what I found almost without exception is middle managers don't like those conversations. Senior people really, really value someone having the guts to say, I think you're about to make a mistake. Or I've seen this piece of data seems to suggest that something bad's about to happen. Have you considered it? But there is a whole art in doing that, doing it succinctly and doing it because they tend to be time poor. So I know that's a long way round about saying, but that I agree, and I think there's a skill in actually having the guts, like when everyone else is going deliver, to say, hang on a minute, what the hell are we delivering here and why? Because the environment's changed around us.
And that is challenging. That is challenging for BAs because it's easy for us to become quite cynical and quite negative because we can see all the things that could go wrong. And we've experienced a lot of them before. So that can come across as quite jaded and quite negative. And if we're like that all the time, then it prevents those messages getting through.
This comes back to a presentation you gave years ago about bad BA behaviours, Tina, which has always stuck with me ever since. But
I do think that BAs are sometimes the little kind of rain cloud on projects that we're trying to shut everything down and stop things from moving forward. And people work around us if we portray business analysis in that way.
And I always have to temper this with, ultimately now when I'm working on a project, I'm external to the organization. So it's much easier for me to walk away and it doesn't really matter to my career. I mean, it matters from a client relationship perspective, but if there's something that was ethically iffy, it's far easier to walk away in that situation than if you're employed and your mortgage is being paid by it. And this is something I remember reading in a report. There was someone whose name I've temporarily forgotten, who I did a webinar with about 3 years ago. She wrote this brilliant report as a piece of academic research, I think, into whistleblowing in the construction industry. Or I'll remember her name in a moment. And what she was saying is, there's very stringent whistleblowing for health and safety reasons in the construction industry, and it very rarely gets used because to blow the whistle, you have to be in a place of privilege. Because if you're a subcontractor, and that if you blow the whistle, you're going to be blacklisted, and your entire income is on the line, then you might not blow the whistle. But one of the things I took from that is that for those of us that perhaps are a bit more later in our careers, and perhaps aren't necessarily like have more options, that if we were fired, it's not going to be such an issue that when you're in, earlier in your career, it might be. I think the impetus is even more on us to call stuff out, because we have potentially the safety margin to do that if we do get fired. And I'm always really mindful of that as well.
Yeah, which was sort of the point. I had a keynote that I've since rebranded, but originally it was called "Ugly Babies and What to Do with Them," and it was because that's not a very marketable name. It's now called "Speaking Unspoken Truths," and it's basically taking that and when you see something, say something, so to speak. But recognize, like you make a valid point, recognize that we come from a place of positional privilege to be able to do that, right? So that's fair, and that's something that I should probably incorporate into that. I want to circle back to give folks a recommendation for a book that I love called Originals by Adam Grant. And when back to Adrian's comment about middle managers are the ones that hate those tough conversations in it, and I'll paraphrase, but there's a section where Adam Grant talks about, and I love Adam Grant's books, so just he's very insightful. But he says, middle management is where innovation goes to die in organizations, because you have people at the top that are charged with, growth and innovation for their organizations. You have people at the bottom that see the problems in a very tactical, real way and want to bring change. But change, when it comes from the middle, is scary. So ideas go there to die. So if something comes from the bottom up, it never gets fed to the top. When an idea comes from the top down, it often gets homogenized and you end up with a safe solution. And so this idea that middle management is killing innovation, killing creativity, it's always stuck with me. And I saw it. I hated it. I hated being at that level. And like, you can't, and you both know me, I'm a pain in the ass. So I am that person that says, what value are we getting from this? Shut up, Vince. Shut up. And eventually you do become so jaded that's like, I'm just not going to say anything anymore because no one listens to me anyway. But I want to recommend, if anyone's not read Originals by Adam Grant, it's a fantastic book. So.
And Adrian and I have both read Think Again by Adam Grant, which is one that I always recommend.
I love that one. Yeah. I love that one. And I've got his next one that just came out like 2 weeks ago. I forget the name of it, but it's about imposter syndrome, and like I suffer from that huge. So
Hidden Potential, is that
Potential,
what it's called?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hidden Potential. So that's on my list. I still have like Atomic Habits.
That's brilliant. Atomic Habits is good.
Is it? Okay. It's like right here. I've got that, and I got about 6 books when I went to Vegas for my company conference. I spent a couple hours with Lori Silverman.
Oh wow!
And she was because she lives in Vegas. And she was cleaning out her library, and she's just like, do you want this book? Do you want this book? So over FaceTime, like I'm looking at her library, and she ended up walking over because the hotel was, I think it was about a 5 or 10 minute walk from where she lives. And so I came home from Vegas with like 6 books that she recommended around, company culture and decision making. And so, it was great opportunity to so I'm way behind, and that's why I haven't ordered the latest Adam Grant, because I'm like, my wife's gonna kill me. She's like, you have like 8 books in your queue, why are you ordering more books? I'm like, well, but they're on sale. Like, that's how I have to justify it's on sale. So but
for the last couple of years, Adrian and I have been chatting about different books and recommending different books to each other, and that's what led to us launching what we call Tina and Adrian's Business Bookshelf,
which I love that idea. I'm so upset I didn't think of it first. It's a great idea.
Yeah, we just chat about what we're reading, and sometimes people who join us who've read it, or they just they might pick the book up after we've talked about it. So that's a really interesting way of getting some wider ideas out into the community, because we do read quite widely. And actually, what we're talking about next week is about AI.
Oh,
The book is
well, that's
called "You Look
You,
Like a
you,
Thing and
you
I
look like
Love
a thing, and I
You."
love you. Yeah, that's what it's called.
You look like a thing, and I love you. Okay.
Yeah, and
Um,
the reason it's called that is because that's a chat-up line that AI came up with, having analysed thousands of different potential chat-up lines. That was what it thought would be a good chat-up line. So you can have that.
uh,
Don't tell your
uh,
wife.
so like a pickup line, like
A pickup
chat up
line,
line,
yeah.
pickup line. Okay, just making sure
Yep.
we're not lost in translation.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So I mean, I've talked about in the past. I do Duolingo, and I had accumulated enough of their in-game currency to buy 2 additional modules. One was how to pick up people at a club, and my wife did not like that because I was learning how to say, "Hey, you have beautiful eyes" in Spanish, and she was like, Why are you doing this? When would you ever need to use that
Is
phrase?"
that
And
is
I'm like,
that a pickup line that would actually work?
no, I'm making
I
that
mean,
up.
it's just
There
like
were others, but like, hey, I'm Canadian. What's up? Like, I don't know what would work, but anyways, yeah, she was not happy that that I unlocked those. And then the other one was about like going to a sporting event or something. So like, okay, that one makes a little bit more sense. But there
My
you go.
daughter is doing Duolingo French, and a couple of weeks ago, it taught her how to say, "Your face looks like a potato," which
Right,
doesn't
right,
feel like it gets used in everyday conversation, but
yeah,
there
so
you
I can remember a little bit of French that will involve visage and pomme de terre.
go.
yes, well done. Which literally translated is apple of the
Apple of
earth
the earth. Yep.
or dirt
Yep.
apple. But there you go.
Well,
I
now
once
dirt apple sounds like something completely different, but
let's not go there. The one phrase that I've not been able to forget now that I'm going to butcher it, but it was like, "Today is not the day where I will die." I was like, when would I need to learn and use that phrase? Like, like yeah. Anyways, Duolingo. You guys have done some things. I recently surpassed a 1,000-day streak in Duolingo.
wow,
So
that's
I
awesome.
haven't learned anything, but I've done enough to fool the owl into thinking that I've learned stuff.
So Mary's asking where the library is.
¿Dónde está la biblioteca? A la derecha, Marie. A la derecha.
In Barcelona.
On the right. ¿Cómo es? Every time I think of Encino Man, that really sort of cheesy movie with a young Brendan Fraser and Pauly Shore and Sean Astin, who would go on to play Samwise Gamgee. There were 2 phrases: "Donde está el biblioteca? El queso es viejo." Like, the cheese is old. The cheese is old. Where's the library? Anyways, somehow the hour. Go ahead.
Sorry, Vince. So go.
No, please.
I was just going to say another Spanish phrase that I know, which is Aeropuerto Terminal B, por favor, which is Airport Terminal B.
Well done. I had a friend that would go down to the Caribbean a lot, and he was like, I needed 2 things: "Donde está el baño?" and "Dos más cervezas, por favor."
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was like, I can get by for a week with just those 2 phrases. And
if you're on business, I think it's recibo, por favor. So receipt.
Yeah,
please.
so you have a receipt. Yeah. There we go. So you guys have got a lot going on. I appreciate you taking the time out to join me here today. I know it's late, so I apologize. I owe you one. Next drink's on me. Any last words of wisdom, any parting thoughts that you'd like to leave those that have joined us today with?
I just want to loop back to where we started our conversation this evening, which is around BA School Day. I just want to say a massive thanks to everyone who's got behind the initiative, promoted it, or taken part. It's been amazing to watch it unfold all across the world.
I would absolutely echo that. And I'd add, one of the things I think I've learned from that is don't ask for permission, be an activist, just do it. Disrupt it. Don't feel you have to wait for the masses. Just do it. Try it. If if something doesn't work, that's fine. It's probably not going to kill you. Get out there, do it. Whatever it is.
Whatever it is. I'm going to take this opportunity to also leave some words of wisdom, and I'm going to throw up a QR code. Tina, it's going to be right over you, so I apologize. That's why I didn't have it the whole time. For those that may have noticed, there's this thing that's started on my face. I am raising funds for Movember in support of men's cancers and mental health. Not just for dudes, anyone can participate, but if you're so inclined, I'm trying to raise some money. It's a personal cause for me. And I would not grow a mustache otherwise, because I mean, you can see it now. We're 9 days in and it's getting ugly. It will be Mario level by the end of the month. And unfortunately, that coincides with the BA World in Chicago.
Excellent.
Right at the end of the month. It is going to be epic. So you can scan that QR code and you can, contribute and, join my team if you're interested, the BA campers. But with that, I'll take the QR code away because, it's blocking Tina's view. Folks, thank you so much. I appreciate everything that you do and everything that you will do. This definitely has been a serendipitous conversation. And with that, folks, let's take it out. And
Thanks.
thank you.